Welcome to the McAllister Report. We join John McAllister, top football evaluator, as he shares wisdom and interviews coaches and athletes from around the country. Enjoy today's podcast.
Hello, I'm John McAllister, and this is the John McAllister Report. Today, my guest is the new head football coach at Otterbein University, Tommy Zagorski. And coach has a lot of experience. He's 38 years old. He's worked in some fine programs. He himself was a really good player. And most recently, he was the head coach at a private school, Hawkins up in Cleveland. But he'd been in the Case Western program. He'd been at University of Tennessee as a GA. He had been at Eastern Kentucky, I think. Tommy's been around. And most of all, he has a great philosophy, and he's a great guy. I will tell you, during the filming, parts of his, there's no speaking, and it comes and goes. And just be patient with it, and watch it, listen to it, and enjoy it. So if you'll sit back and enjoy Tommy Zagorski, the new head football coach at Otterbein University. My guest tonight, as I said earlier, is Tom, the new head football coach at Otterbein University, Tommy Zagorski. And he's 38 years old, but I was reading about him, and man, he's been a lot of places. And am I right, Coach, or not?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people dance to a lot of songs a lot different ways, and I've eaten chicken a lot of different ways too. So I've lived a lot of different places, and I'm blessed about it.
Real quickly, you were in a private school in Cleveland High School. You've been in Division III, you've been in Division I, and you've been in two. Is Eastern Kentucky's not two, is it? No,
FCS.
That's right, FCS, that's right. But you've been around. I asked you earlier, what did you find attractive about Otterbein University?
Yeah, location. Columbus, Ohio, one of the best places in the country to live. Westerville is the northeast corner of the city. It's growing immensely. There's a lot of different businesses that are calling it home. It's a great opportunity for so many young men to come there, develop as football players, but more importantly, graduate with opportunities. Graduate with opportunities in Central Ohio. We are really 3 hours away from 6 major U.S. cities. Talk about internship opportunities. Talk about the ability to grow and develop. I don't know if there's another place in this area that can say that. When our students drive to campus, wherever they come from, it looks great. There's a great location, and no matter where they come from. I've worked at other schools where people drive in. You go, I hope they don't come this way, or I hope they don't come that way to see the school. Otterbein, no matter where you come from, we show great. And we're so forward thinking intellectually as a university, and to have that match up with a football program, I think is remarkable. Central Ohio has incredible ties. People are very loyal to the area that want Otterbein to be a good football program. And with that being said, it's really important that you are at a place that location-wise is going to be great. My in-laws live 7 minutes from campus. My wife grew up in Central Ohio. I've recruited Columbus for literally my entire career, no matter where I was at. So it's a really important thing for me to be able to continue to cultivate those relationships with the coaches in this community and allow them to know the doors are open at Otterbein, and we want them to be part of it.
I totally agree with you for what it means. I think it's a sleeping giant, and I think it's so classy. And I love Ohio Northern, but it's out in the country. Some of these schools, but I think it's real. I've always liked Otterbein, and as I told you earlier, that's where I proposed to my late wife a long time ago. But it's a parking lot now, but it used to be a building. Dorm.
We're going to get a historical marker there for you. We'll get it put there on campus when we're given the tour.
Rich Siles, I will tell you this: your facility is not quite like it was back then. It's changed a little bit, I think. So that's you said. I think in your interview, or you said, serve one another. That's one of your words you live by. I give that to when I do football players, words to live by. You say serve one another. What does that mean to you, Tom?
It means humility. The three pillars of our program here are character, humility, and love. And what is humility? I gave our players this definition. I've used it at multiple places. It's what's best for we, not best for me. And when you're genuinely serving others, it all ties back in together. Are you a person of character? Are you somebody that no matter what the situation is, you're driven? You're going to continue to drive. If you're an individual that doesn't want to be part of a team sport, like go play tennis. I think the great Bill Russell said, go play tennis if you don't want to be part of a team sport. Like, come be a part of this, invest in each other. And then in the good book, St. Paul says, love bears all. Love, it bears all. So when it bears all, it's that mindset, no matter what the situation is, can we handle it? Can we help one another maximize what mom, dad, and God gave us? And I think that's really important. And you're going to see our kids do this. I issued them a challenge when I met them Friday in our team meeting. And I said, guys, I'm asking you one thing this semester. Leave every place we go better than we found it. Yeah. If it's a piece of paper on our campus, pick it up. If it's pushing a chair in, push the chair in. It's amazing how many people, when they think about that and they act that way, it's little details in your daily life that stack up to victories that you end up culminating on Saturdays and victories as well. And that's what we're trying to work with our young men right now. I was really proud of the guys this morning with the workout. They're turning things in. They're making sure that they're working through things and doing things the right way right now. So, it's a start, but we've got a lot of work to do.
That's for sure. The record hasn't, I don't know about the cupboard, but I know the record hasn't been very good. But last year, I think you almost beat Wilmington the last game of the season. So it was really close. And so maybe it's gotten better over the season and you're going to go in. Your facilities are really good too, I think. I've been to indoor track meets there. You kind of have done it already. How do you promote the cards? How are you going to promote the cards right now? Anything else but what you've said? I guess you've answered that question, but any other things to promote the cards?
Yeah, opportunity. You talk about when you're looking at a college and you're a high school student, there's a couple things you have to look at. Do they have my major? We offer 75 different majors. Wow. Do they have the opportunity that if I don't like my major, can I go to something else? We have a lot of different disciplines at our university. So, America's most popular major is undecided. When you come in as a freshman, you may think you want to do something. It changes. I know I changed my major. I know countless young men I've called that I've coached have changed their major. And fortunately enough, we've got a broad enough variety of classes. You can do that at Otterbein University and not fall drastically behind. Wow. In addition to that, also, we are very committed to making sure that young men and young women's families are not taking on a burden of financial hardship just to go to our university. When I met with our president, his number one commitment to our students is to make sure that we are being financially responsible for them making decisions early in their life. So many times we get caught up in the glitz and glam of the recruiting process and we lose sight of where we're going to go to school and where is probably the best opportunity for my family. And when you look at that, I think that's an important aspect for our students. And I said about opportunity, just to bring that all back together, you're going to have the chance to grow as a football player. You're going to have the chance to grow as a man on our campus. But also, no one's ever won a game because of tradition. No one's ever sat in a locker room after the game and go, wow, in the fourth quarter, those guys just had too much tradition for us. Our players have an opportunity to write one of the greatest stories in college football history. They have a chance to change the trajectory of our program, to literally every day with the way that we interact with one another. We have that opportunity to do it. And then once we get to the point where we want to be, then we have an obligation to the past to carry it forward. So right now we're in that opportunity phase and we're working to get to the obligation phase.
Wow, that's really good. I think Otterbein has always impressed me, and like I said, but that's really good. Again, it's a sleeping giant.
Mhm.
Do you have the staff? Have you able to put your staff together yet, or and then I worked at the College of Worcester back in the day, and it was I mean back in the '70s, and I was like a volunteer guy, and they got me monies, but nothing. I mean, all it did, I mean, great coaching, Tom Holman, but it also got me on my resume, linebacker tackle coach at Worcester. Well, it was Worcester College then.
Yeah.
So have you been able to? And I think small programs really need those guys coming in from the outside. I mean, you know what I'm saying? You need guys on staff, but you need a little bit of help on the outside, I think.
And
Coming
that's one of the great things about Otterbein is that we're in a great region where a lot of people live.
in.
So there's
Yeah,
a lot more opportunity for us to branch out and find the right people to
right.
fit those different pieces. When I got the salary pool originally, I said, okay, how can I stretch this in ways that we couldn't stretch it before? We have graduate assistant opportunities, we have restricted earnings
That's good.
positions, we have full-time positions, and we have part-time positions. So we're going to be able to have a full staff. I'm still in the process of finishing that up. I told our players I'm hoping that on Valentine's Day will be the day that I have kind of the idea of what everything is going to look like going forward. Realistically, it'll probably be that following week after President's Day. I'll have a better idea of where we're at staffing wise, because we're going to start spring ball here in a month. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like you have to make sure we have everybody in place as we're working to it. And it's paramount that we have a strength and conditioning program that our kids are
Oh,
going to have that's going to help them develop and grow. That's
wow.
something that we're going to really invest in and really bring in somebody that's going to help those guys. It's such a crucial part of it. And I've watched it at the different levels. And no matter what level of football you're at, there's so much equity built in the weight room, not just physical, but also mentally, spiritually. How do we all push together in the same direction? And having somebody that's a constant voice in there, that's positive, that can really maximize what our kids can do, it's going to really give us the opportunity to take the next step forward.
That's really good. And you'll announce those after like President's Day or sometime in there then.
That's the
That's
goal. Yeah. Right now, human resources and different things like that, I'm working through
right,
the right way to do it.
right.
And there is a reason for it and a rhyme for it. It's the same reason it took us a little bit of time to announce me. So it's kind of,
Yeah,
some of these things you got to keep under your hat for a little bit longer than you'd like to. But once it happens, let's go celebrate it and let's go hit the road.
good. Okay, let's go then. Young coaches, what would be your advice now? And I saw you work under some really good guys, and old friend of mine, I haven't seen him for years, Butch.
Butch
Now,
Jones down at Arkansas
Butch
State now.
Jones.
Yeah.
See, so with so many of these guys, even the great Urban Meyer, when I worked with him when he was an assistant at Notre Dame, because those guys had come into Ohio, and I got to know Butch Jones. I think the world of him. Tough guy to work for, I bet. Hard-nosed guy to work for. And I mean, I know him, and I didn't say I was going to work for him. I said I worked with him,
Yeah.
but he's a good coach. And and then Arthur, you got a couple of guys. Brandon Staley was from the Cleveland. Did you work with him or one of those guys?
We did. I mean, Brandon and I shared a closet that was our office at John Carroll University.
And you're not name dropping for sure. And I'm not, I guess it's just important to give more credibility where you've been around, coaches you've been around and things like that. Okay. Tell me then, the young coaches, what would you tell them? I ask all these college coaches, what do you tell the young coaches? Vince Caristo yesterday or the day before said almost got to work free sometimes, to get where you want to be. And what do you think, Vin? Or what do you think then, Tommy?
Be vulnerable. Be vulnerable. It's the most humbling experience when you go from playing this sport and then you get into coaching. And I think about this, and I remember my moment. I'm a 4-year starter at Case Western Reserve. I'm a 4-time captain. I just got done playing in the greatest season in our program history. We finished in the Sweet 16. People didn't even know we had a team probably when I got there. And then we're ranked in the top 10 in the country at the end of the year at the Division III level. You help build that thing, and yet your mindset, like when you walk around campus, everyone knows who you are. Then you go down the street to another school and you're a graduate assistant. Nobody knows who you are. You're the first one in. You're the last one out. You make the least amount of money. You don't know where your next meal's coming from. You're trying to debate, should I drive home or not drive home tonight? I could save the gas money. I could get an extra half an hour of sleep if I sleep on the floor of the stadium, like whatever it may be. Like, have that vulnerability. And it's not just that on a tangible level, it's also the listening aspect of it, because you never know who or what you're going to learn when you're there. And it's like those connections you make, and you make different connections at different times in your life. I mean, I think about how I ended up at the University of Tennessee was because I was surrounded by great people at John Carroll. Yeah. We had one of the best offenses in the country. I was a finalist for the Football Scoop Coordinator of the Year award. And Butch Jones literally asked in a team meeting or in a staff meeting, does anybody know any of these guys? And when he asked that question, Mark Elder, who went to Case Western Reserve, who I used to email constantly, just reaching out, like, how do I get in? What can I do to be a better coach? What can I learn from you? Yeah. Mark goes, I know him. And then I had a teammate who was a QC there, Greg Meyer, who's the special teams coordinator at Southern Miss right now. And they both go, we know Tommy. So they fly me down. They fly me down to just talk about what we do offensively at John Carroll. And the next thing I know, I'm leaving with a job opportunity at the University of Tennessee. And it doesn't happen like that for everybody. I say the rosary every day. I think that's how that happened. I don't think it was an act of God that all that worked out and the stars aligned the exact way. But just have the humility, have that vulnerability to listen and to cultivate those relationships. It's not about the logo on someone's chest. It's about looking someone eye to eye, understanding where their passion's at, and then seeing how it aligns with who you are. And when you get to a program where you're working with other people that are aligned the same way as you, it's remarkably how incredible this vocation really is. And then you end up serving students the same way. It's really, really a great profession. Continue to stay with it. And don't worry about what your bank account says. The other day, and I know this is a long-winded response, but one of my friends who's near and dear to me wrote me a check for $1.02. And the reason he wrote me a check for one, it says to the Otterbein head football coach, wrote me this little note. And he said $1.02. And the reason he knows that is because I'll never forget, I was a graduate assistant. I had $1.02 in my banking account. I was not getting paid for another 2 weeks. I was talking to a girl at the time that I knew was going to dissipate because there was no way I could do anything with her. I didn't have the humility to tell her, like, hey, I'm broke. I remember calling home to my late father, and I said, Dad, like, do I just go get a real job? Do I just go a real job and just go do this? And my dad, on the phone, and my dad was an old retired police officer, great guy, not a real emotional person. He just goes, crazy. He goes, you coach football for a living. He goes, who cares what's in your bank account? He goes, there's a difference between the mindset of being broke and being poor. Like there's a difference between that. And like when you understand that, like when you're broke, you're broken. He goes, you're not broken. He goes, you're just poor right now. Yeah. He goes, broken is something about who you are. He goes, there's going to be other times in your life you're going to have many different obstacles like that. And it was a really powerful message, from my father. And that sticks with me to this day. And I like to tell guys that all the time, like, hey, I've been there. Like, I understand, you're at Speedway trying to grab an extra sandwich and see if they're going to throw it out. And you're like, hey, I'll take it. Like, whatever it may be, like, just so you can get by. It's really important to do that and have that vision that you can get where you want to be in this profession if you just continue to push.
And I always add to this question that Coach Tressel said to me, I can't remember, it was a year or so ago. He said, he did one of these podcasts. He said, it's not so important where you work, it's who you work for. And boy, that's a ton of truth there.
Amen.
It's not so much where, it's who you work. He didn't add it, but I could add with, who you work for or with. Mm-hmm. It's good. Let's just do a couple more questions. The other one I would ask you, what are you looking for in football players at the D3 level? What are you looking? Let's don't talk positions and all that stuff, but what are you looking for, Tommy, as far as when they come in your office? What are you looking for? What do you expect?
I'm looking for competitors. I'm looking for guys that when they walk in, they want to be the best recruit that steps foot on our campus in this entire cycle. I want guys that want to compete. And when they compete in everything. They compete in the classroom. They compete in the community. They compete. I mean, I watched a kid the other night play 3 minutes of basketball, and all I wanted to do was see how he would react. I didn't care if he missed a jumper. I didn't care. I wanted to see if he was competitive. I wanted to see if, like, at the end of the game when he got in, no matter what the scoreboard said, was he going to perform to the best of his God-given ability? And when I meet these young men and I meet eye to eye, you could tell how competitive they are. I've had players I know that if I dropped a toothpick in my office and said, "Hey, who's bringing the toothpick back?" Like, those guys are going to fight to go get it. Like, those are the type of guys you want. Those are the type of guys that no matter what that scoreboard says, because the scoreboard lies to you, it's a liar. And what I mean by that is, like, during the ebb and flow of a football game, during the ebb and flow of your life, there's going to be different times. We just alluded to the bank account. Like, there's different things that, like, you're doing great things, but you may not see it manifest in tangible results yet. And I think when you get caught up in that, that's when you really are guys that aren't going to have the maturity to help this program grow in the right direction. I want guys that literally are just going to take it step by step, day by day, and that I know when they are across campus, they're going to be proud to be members of this program and wear this logo on their chest. You know, those are the guys that I'm looking for. Those are the guys that we're recruiting right now at Otterbein.
Good. You know, I would add to that, and going to cut her down here in a minute. I would add to that. I used to do it all the time. You go to any event and you watch that competitiveness, but you also, that boy that got in the last 3 minutes, well, what was he like on the bench the whole time? I mean, was he pouting, or was he encouraging, giving high fives, or what was he doing? Was he looking up in the audience? I think that's huge. When I go to things like that, it sounds silly, but I don't know. I just watch kids. I don't watch the games much.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I'm not trying to figure out if it's a 1-3-1 zone or a full court. I mean, I don't care. You know, and track and all those things. It's so important how they compete, I think.
Absolutely.
Well, Coach, I really covered. I didn't get everything covered, but I did. Let's do my last question for you, and I think it's huge. Was there ever a time in your coaching profession and where it just kicked in, where you just said, "Hey, I got to get my butt in gear. I got to take that next step or get out"? Was there ever a time like that? Because I think that says a lot about your personality.
Yeah, I mean, I think about it. It's probably the moment I was in my second year as a graduate assistant. And Regis Scaife, who's a legendary high school and college coach in the state of Ohio, was our head coach at John Carroll.
Right.
And I remember our offensive line coach that I worked for had left to go somewhere else. And he comes in my office. He goes, "Can you come in my office?" I said, "Yeah, Coach, I'll come on in." And Coach Scaife looks me in the eye and he goes, "Why didn't you apply for the offensive line job?" And I'm kind of like, I'm a GA. I've been here for 2 years. He goes, "Why didn't you apply for this job?" And I said, "Honestly, Coach, like, I'm 24, 25 years old. Like, there's going to be a million guys that have been coaching this forever." He goes, "Apply for the job. Go apply for the job. I'm not promising you anything. Go interview for it." He goes, "I've watched you for 2 years interact with our kids. I've watched you develop." And he goes, "I know you want to be a high school coach," because that was kind of my vision at the time. I went to Carroll to get my master's in school counseling. I wanted to go coach high school football like the guys that coached me, the Augie Basus, the Art Bortnicks, the Joe Schmoes, the Pat Conahans, the Tony Russes of the world. Like, those were the guys that I wanted. Like, I loved those guys. Like, those guys poured into me every single day, and I wanted to be just like them.
Yeah.
And that was who I wanted to be like. And when he said, "You've got to go do this," I go and apply for the job. I interview. You know, we brought in like 4 other people to interview. I was one of them. And he names me the offensive line coach, the run game coordinator, and the special teams coordinator. And I will be completely honest, I was grossly underqualified for all these things. So I'm driving home and I go, wow, like, I'm not going to have $1.02 in my bank account. I might have $4.08 in my banking account now. But what I really was excited about was that moment I was driving home, and you got to reflect on what you do all day long. I think examining different points of your day and give yourself time to do that. Like, reflect on your day.
Yeah.
And when I did that on the drive home, I go, "You're not prepared for this, but you can be." Like, you have to make the decision to invest. Like, you can talk to people, you can recruit. Recruiting is just, it's great. It's just having the ability to continuously stay on people. Where do you set yourself apart is when you're a great recruiter, but you also understand this game at a very high level. And it forced me to take the humility to learn about special teams, to call different people, to learn about kickers, to learn about stuff that I had never done in this sport. And knowing that I was in charge of it was really important. And I just I put my head down and I continued to push. And that was at that moment where I knew, I was like, if you do this the right way, you're going to look back at this moment and you're going to say, thank you. Like, thank you to your younger self for pushing yourself and deciding that you were going to dictate where you worked the rest of your life. You weren't going to let it be other people that did that for you.
That's really good. Well, Coach, I really appreciate you being on. And I think, if anything, people, you should send this to recruits, because they're going to learn a lot about you on this program right now. That's who you are. And I'm so privileged to talk to you. I wish you the best at the Otterbein, and I need to get to see a game. Okay.
Please come out whenever you want, full, whatever you want to do with spring football, with the games. I have so much respect for you, Mr. McAllister. When I first got into this, you've been doing it forever. Nobody does it better than you. You cultivate relationships, and that's what this sport's about.
It
And
really
we're all
is.
people for interacting with you every single day. And I'm just humbled to be on here. I thank you. And any young men that are watching us, or any families, hit me up. We're on the website. Come visit us. Come see what we are. Come see the Otterbein difference and help us soar higher.
And Coach, congratulations on your hire.
Thank you
Appreciate
so
it.
much.
Thank you.